Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to the Upper Room Community Podcast, where you're here to be elevated in mindset, habit, and spirit. I am your host, Raquel Sade. And if you're viewing me right now, you see a change of scenery. We in this. I just want to say welcome to the Upper Room, the official Upper Room. Now we are officially a part of the Upper Room community. We are in the Upper Room itself, and I am ecstatic. I'm so happy to be here with y'all. This is truly a blessing, and I'm so happy to share my studio space. It's been a long time coming, but I am very grateful for this beginning, and this is a perfect way to start off this episode. But welcome to episode 7, and I'm happy to be here with y'all. Thank you for sticking with me. Thank you for being patient, and thank you for just being a part of this journey, watching the growth, watching the development of the Upper Room Community Podcast. I won't be able to expand without my community. We need community to expand in every single way possible in life. And I'm just grateful for the journey. I'm grateful for you guys being here, for watching me, for watching the growth. And I hope y'all stay tuned and stay connected, because this is only the beginning. And I'm so excited to see what the Lord has in store for us all. Yeah, we're just going to be talking about today how despising small beginnings can actually stunt your development and can stunt your process in trying something new and pursuing your dreams and pursuing your greatest vision of where you see yourself. Here's a little testimony. When I started this podcast, I knew that I was going to wind up in this space eventually. I need to hopefully one day, I don't even think I have like a recording of what this room looked like beforehand. But this, I always knew would be my studio space. Was it my studio space when I started in the physical? No, it was not. So at first, with starting this podcast, I was holding off on it for quite some time. One main reason behind that was because my studio space wasn't ready. And I was allowing that to stop me from pursuing this and actually starting my podcast, because I'm like, no, it needs to be perfect. I need to start where I know I'm supposed to be at. I need everything. I need the ball to be rolling exactly in the way I think it should be rolling. And one thing I'm actually learning in this season in life is to not be so much bent on the plans that I have. I'm a very regimented person. I'm a big planner, and when things don't go my way, or when things didn't go the way I thought it should go, there would be times when I would get frustrated, I would get anxious, I would just be overwhelmed, because it's like I had this set in one way in my head and it's not looking that way right now. And so since it's not looking that way, I'm just going to be a hot mess. I can't allow that to stump me. I can't allow that to keep me stuck, because at the end of the day, only thing I can control is myself. I cannot control anything outside of me. I cannot control what's happening outside of my very own body. So it was not good. And I'm definitely learning in life right now that, I can't control every single thing, but what I can control is myself, how I react and how I pivot to circumstances that may not seem to be working in my quote unquote favor. But what I did learn too, that things that didn't seem to be working in my favor, it actually was, because it's helping me develop and grow into the woman that can handle anything that comes her way, that can handle any turn or any outcome that may not look like what I thought it should be, but it's teaching me how to pivot. It's teaching me how to basically be ready for any and everything. Like, I should be equipped emotionally. I should be equipped to handle whatever comes my way. And that's because I'm learning how to adjust in situations that might not look like the ideal situation that I was trying to be in the first place. So with that being said, I was not going to start my podcast until the studio was ready. And I just kept hearing, like, start where you are, start where you are, start where you are. And, you know, I can be not a perfectionist, but if I have an image in my head, I want to stick to that image as much as possible. And so when I'm hearing to start where you are, I'm like, okay, God, like, I'm gonna start where I am. So as y'all see, like in previous episodes, if you are watching on YouTube, I started in my bedroom. I bought my equipment. I bought everything that I needed in this very moment. Every single thing that I planned on having, I didn't have in the moment. But because I was continuously instructed to start where I was, I just made the decision to do just that. So I started in my bedroom. I sat on my bed, I sucked it up, and I started it. I didn't care anymore what I looked like. I didn't care what the background looked like. I didn't care about anything at all. I was just caring about actually pushing the content and putting it out there, because these are very important topics that we can all benefit from in some stage in our life. Like, I know we're all in different stages, but these are very important topics that can help benefit everybody's lives, not just my own, because I definitely learn from each and every episode that I put out. But anyway, yeah, I just started where I was, and here we are on episode 7 in my studio space. It is beautiful as ever, the decor. I'm just excited just to be here. Now I can finally get cozy. I can chill. I could sit back. I can lean back. I could just relax and allow the conversation to just flow how it should be. And I think it's important too that it's very important for us to start where we are, especially in this day and age when we're only privy to the highlights. We're only privy to what people want us to see. We don't really have access to the quote unquote struggle. We don't really have access to the beginning for much people, because, and especially in social media and a lot of these platforms, we only see the finished product. We don't see how it started. We don't see the progression. We don't see the very beginning of how these people's journeys began, how people's careers began. And that can tend to put pressure on us. It's very important for us to show the journey of where we're beginning, of where we're starting, because where we start is never perfect. There's always going to be quirks. There's always going to be things that need to be improved on. Like my very first episode, there was a lot of reverb in my audio, and I didn't even know what reverb was. Like, I was just starting. Like, literally my instruction was to start where I was, and that's what I did. I did some research in terms of like sound and microphones, but you know, I was very ignorant to some things, but it was just important for me to start, because I think it's also so imperative for other people to see that journey. In a world where we only see the finished product, in a world where we only see what's quote unquote perfect or what is doctored up to look perfect, it's important for people to see the real behind it all. Like, these things that we see on social media are doctored up, and that's not really reality. And I think it was important for reality to be shown here, for the authenticity to be shown here in this podcast, because it's important to see the journey. It's important to see the growth, not for just myself, but for other people that are trying to start something but have been, you know, scared to start, or have been hesitant to start because they are not in a position where they think they're like in the exact moment where they need to start something. And sometimes, like, if you keep thinking like that, like, you'll never start, because there's some situations where you just have to do it. Like, it's not going to be perfect. It's not always going to look good. It's not always going to sound good. Sometimes it will be a hot mess, but it's never an L. Like, that journey, there's always going to be lessons behind it, and there's always going to be growth. And not only are you growing within yourself, but the people that are watching you can also be inspired to grow as well, and can also be inspired to start where they are, even though it may not look perfect or pleasing to the eye, because we're not in a world that's perfect, number one. And I just feel like our reality has been tainted, and I think that people tend to forget that there is a reality out there, and that, you know, every situation that we stumble into or walk into is never going to be just perfect straight off the bat. But I think that these trials are important, because you learn during these trials. You can help other people learn during these trials, and it makes you equipped. And it helps you learn new skills in life as well. Like, if it was just all handed to me, if the stage was just set perfect, if my mic was already here, if everything was already here, I would not have learned all the information that I was able to learn while starting this podcast. And I can leverage that information that I have. I can use that information that I have to my benefit, and also to help benefit other people. If I didn't have this information, if I didn't go through these trials and tribulations, like, I wouldn't have learned what reverb was. I wouldn't have learned what all these other dynamics of recording a podcast was. And I wouldn't even be able to help the next person that is wondering how to start the next move, or wondering how to start a podcast, or learning how to start certain things, which I was able to learn on my own just through testing and trials and tribulations. Like, starting where you are is imperative. Do not let the highlights of social media and the highlights of the media in general make you think that, like, starting off small is something we shouldn't do, because starting off small is actually the most vital part in starting something great and building something for yourself that is worth the while, worth the wait, worth the journey. Yeah, I know I love putting my scriptures in here, because there's just so much biblical truth that can apply to our real and our daily lives. And it's so important for us to be able to tap into the word and help it cultivate our life, because I'm telling you, it's just a life changer. But in Zechariah 4 verse 10, I'm going to read it in the New Living Translation. It says, "Do not despise these small beginnings, for the Lord rejoices to see the work begin." That word rejoice means to feel or show great joy and delight. Like, the Lord has delight in seeing us start a thing. He has delight, like, in seeing us put our hands to what it is that we have been called to do, and actually mold it and shape it and figure it out so that it can become great. It can become something of substance. And it's so funny, because just like we're taking the time out to start small and form something, like, if you think about it, in Genesis, we were formed from clay. We were formed out of clay. We were formed out of dirt. So if you go outside and you look at dirt, do you see a human being in it? No, you see dirt. When you look outside and you don't see the nutrients in the dirt, you don't see the minerals, you don't see the very vital things that take part in actually making something grow just by looking at the dirt. You just see the dirt itself. And I think it's something so beautiful in the fact that we have the power to create something out of nothing. Like, we were born with that gift, because the Creator himself created something out of nothing. And that is so powerful, that we even have that skill, and we even have that ability to make something out of something so small, make something grand out of something that looks so, like, unimportant, or looks so dull and dim. And that is truly a gift. Being able to create something is what we were here to do. We are here to be creators. We are creators. And that's why it's important to not sit here and worry about the start of something, because if you keep worrying about the start of something, you're never going to actually do what it takes to get to where you see yourself in the future. And it's so important to tap into that creative side of yourself. It's so important to not care about what anybody else may think. As long as you have the vision, you continue to work at that vision. If it's starting off small, start it off small. Like, it doesn't matter what it looks like right now, but it's important that you hold on to that vision that you do have and cultivate and work with what you have now so that it can become that thing you're actually hoping and praying for. Because it's not going to fall out of the sky, there's going to be some work that you have to put into it. You really have to tailor your mind to not worry about what it looks like right now in this very moment, but keep focused on the future. Keep focused on that vision that you have in your mind. No matter what it looks like right now, just hold on to that faith. Hold on to what you know it could come out and turn out to be, because it's so important that we hold on to that promise. It's important that we hold on to that vision. And that's why vision is important, because if you don't even have the vision of where something is going, then how are you even going to start when you don't even see the thing? Like, you need vision to create something out of nothing. You need vision to create a big, grand product out of something that doesn't even seem grand at all. And it's important to hold on to that vision in the times where the vision looks nothing like your reality right now in this moment. But you have the power to make your reality that vision that you've had for such a long time. But the only way to do that is to start where you are in this very moment. So I'm going to go into 2 Kings 4 verse 1 through 7. This interaction speaks to how important it is to start where you are, even if where you are appears to be nowhere at all. So I'm going to start at verse 1, 2 Kings 4 verse 1. And I'm going to read it in the New Living Translation. So one day, the widow of a member of the group of prophets came to Elijah and cried out, "My husband who served you is dead, and you know how he feared the Lord. But now a creditor has come, threatening to take my 2 sons as slaves." "What can I do to help you?" Elisha asked. "Tell me, what do you have in the house?" "Nothing at all." "Nothing," she said, "nothing at all except a flask of olive oil," she replied. And Elijah said, "Borrow as many empty jars as you can from your friends and neighbors. Then go into your house with your sons and shut the door behind you. Pour olive oil from your flask into the jars, setting each one aside when it is filled." So she did as she was told. Her sons kept bringing jars to her, and she filled one after another. Soon every container was full to the brim. "Bring me another jar," she said to one of her sons. "There aren't any more," he told her. Then the olive oil stopped flowing. When she told the man of God what had happened, he had said to her, "Now sell the olive oil and pay your debts, and you and your sons can live off of what is left over." Now, there is so much to impact out of these 7 verses. Out of only 7 verses, there's so much to unpack here. Now, if we go to verse 2, Elisha said, "Tell me, what do you have in the house?" And the widow said, "Nothing at all except a flask of olive oil." Now, that stands out to me because, again, it's the start where you are. And in her mind, she has nothing. She said literally nothing at all except a flask of olive oil. And that very thing that she says she has nothing, that very thing she pointed out, is the very thing that got her out of debt and has changed the trajectory of not only her life, but the life of her sons. That very thing that we tend to overlook, that very thing that we tend to look down on, is the very thing that we can actually use to take us to the next level. Like, it's crazy because she in her mind, she had nothing at all. But that was the very thing that God used to take her from one level in her life to the next level. And that's why it's so important to change your mindset and not to just focus on what you don't have, but be quick to recognize those small things. And that's why it takes vision. Like I said earlier, you don't look at dirt and see a man being formed out of that. You don't look at clay and see a whole man being formed out of that one thing of clay. But it's so important to have that vision, because it can be the very thing that you despise, the very thing that you're not even taking heed to, which could take you out of poverty and take you out of lack in your life now and take you to the next level. When I started this podcast, I felt like I didn't have anything to start this. But what I did have to start this was my voice. And that's where it can start. And out of plenty of conversations that I've had with people, out of many interactions that I've had with people, I've seen more and more how important my voice was, how important the wisdom that I've carried is. And sometimes we can tend to like put ourselves down and not even look at the very things that we have in our house. Like, you have to start where you are. She started in her house and she was instructed to shut the door. So then that symbolizes to me, when he instructed her to shut the door and only to have her and her sons in the house, is to shut all the distractions, shut out the noise, shut out all the noise that's telling you you can't do it, shut out all the noise that's telling you that you don't have enough, shut out all the noise of what reality says, or what, people tend to say, how things are supposed to go, how certain businesses are supposed to start, how long it's supposed to take to for a business to thrive. Shut out all that noise. Stick with you and stick with yourself and work on yourself. Work on the very thing that you do have that can take you from one level to the next. It's important to shut those things out, to shut out those distractions, to just stay locked in, to keep yourself enclosed in what the truth is. She held on to the truth. She held on to the word of God, to that instruction. She held on to the instruction of to take that flask of oil and pour it into the empty vessels that she borrowed. And that very thing that she was able to borrow is the very thing that got her out of debt and changed her life. Like, if she was to keep that door open, if she was to tell other people what she was instructed to do, people would have looked at her like she was crazy, because it doesn't make sense. But one thing that I learned in life, that anything that God is going to tell you to do, 9 times out of 10, it will not make sense. It will defy the logic and it will defy it will go against what reality says. It will go against what people say is the right way to go about things, because in all actuality, you wouldn't need God if it just goes any ordinary way. Like, God is extraordinary. He is outside of time. He is outside of reality. He doesn't even fit the bounds of reality. We can't even really conceptualize the power and the Godhead of who he is. So, the fact of the matter is, when you hear an instruction from God, even if it doesn't make sense, you block out that noise, you block out the distractions, and you focus on that one truth, focus on that instruction, lock in and do what it is that he instructed you to do, because that will take you from poverty to the promise. And that promise is greater than where you are right now. But the only way you'll be able to do that is if you shut out the noise and just focus on what it is that he told you to do. And it will change everything about your life. And one perfect example of that is who? Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos started Amazon in his garage in 1994. He started it with a $10,000 investment, and it only started as a virtual bookstore. That's all Amazon was in 1994, a virtual bookstore. He didn't sell his first book until 1995. And if we look at the stock, if we look at how much Amazon is worth now, Amazon is now worth $1.29 trillion. One $10,000 investment in 1994 turned into a $1.29 trillion in investment in 2023. And he started in his garage. Now, you might not have $10,000. You might have $10,000. I don't know what it is exactly that you need to be starting right now, but you have a voice. If you're supposed to use that voice, you have a voice. If you're supposed to be writing, you have a pen. You have something that can take you from one level to the next. You might not have $10,000, and it might not always have to start off with $10,000. But one thing is for certain is that you have something in your house, you have something in your possession, you have something, your brain, you have creativity, you have something about you that stands out from amongst the crowd, and use that very thing that can change the trajectory of your life. That one $10,000 investment in his garage is what took him from a virtual bookstore into one of the greatest stores for e-commerce there is. The greatest store for e-commerce there is. It's changed and shook industries off of one $10,000 investment. Another great example of starting where you are is Apple, of course. Steve Jobs and his partner started Apple in Steve Jobs' garage. Steve Jobs had to sell his Volkswagen truck, and his partner also had to sell his scientific calculator. How much that was worth is, I don't know. But I know however much he had to spend does not even amount to the how much Apple is worth now. Steve Jobs had to sell his Volkswagen, and his partner had to sell his scientific calculator in order to invest in the first computer, well, the first Apple computer. And that also started in Steve Jobs' basement. Apple is now worth $2.70 trillion off of that small investment, which didn't seem small at the time. He sold his truck. He sold his accents on what got him around. That investment at the time didn't seem so small, but now looking at the grand scheme of things, one truck and one scientific calculator doesn't even add up to the value of $2.70 trillion. Like that looks like such a minuscule investment now that you think about it, which is why vision is so important, because something so small in the grand scheme of things seems like it's so big in the beginning, but it's worth it all. Like your vision, what God has placed before you, what you know you're here to do, like it's worth it all. It's worth every dime. It's worth your time. It's worth it. Like if you know this is something that's going to not just change your life alone, but change and impact lives of those that you're called to help impact, it is worth every dime of an investment of your time, of your money. It is worth it all. Sometimes it's just important to start with what you have. And sometimes that can be all that you have. And all that you have seems like so much in the beginning. But if you're able to look in the future and see the benefits of making that sacrifice that seems so grand and huge now will be nothing compared to the value in what you're investing in. And it does not compare to the value of that one thing that you've actually spent your time and your money on, that was able to grow and bless you and bless generations. Like those small investments, $10,000 seems like a whole lot of money, especially I'm sure the first time Jeff Bezos went out and started Amazon. $10,000 seems like a whole lot of money. But now compared to what was it? Compared to $1 trillion, $10,000 seems like nothing. But in the beginning, you don't see that. You don't know like you'll make a trillion, or you'll make a company that's worth $1 trillion. You don't know that. But it's about having that vision and knowing that sometimes getting from where you are to where you want to be, it costs a great amount of sacrifice. In that very moment, the sacrifice might seem big, and the sacrifice will begin to grow smaller and smaller as you advance in what it is that you've invested in. But it's so important to keep your eye on the vision so that you're not bent on that investment that you've put towards it, so that you have the fuel to keep going, because you have the vision that is keeping you in pursuit of what you know is for you. Apple and Amazon both definitely taught me that, like, sometimes it's okay that you don't have the full vision, But it's important that you are at least just starting. And as you continue to take those steps, the vision will become greater and you will have more knowledge of what it exactly you're getting into. Like when Amazon first started, it was just a virtual bookstore. Look at Amazon now. When Apple started, it was just a computer. Look at Apple now. Like sometimes you don't need the full vision in order to pursue something greater. All you need to know is that you have an idea, it's starting off this way, you know it's a great concept, and you just push towards it and make that sacrifice to make it happen. And as you continue to stride and take the steps, the vision will expand and the vision will continue to get greater in due time. One perfect example of that is Abraham. Now, if we go to Genesis 12, verse 1 and 2, I'm going to read it in the New Living Translation again. But it says, "The Lord has said to Abraham, leave your native country, your relatives, and your father's family, and go to the land that I will show you. I will make you a great nation. I will bless you and make you famous, and you will be a blessing to others." Now, do you hear that instruction? The Lord said to Abraham, leave your family, leave your native city, leave everybody connected to you, and go to a land that I will show you. God did not tell Abraham where to go. He just told him to leave. And that proves that sometimes you don't need the vision. You just know that it's time for you to move, to get out of the familiar, to get out of where you are right now, to get out of the comfort, to get out of the poverty, to get out of the complacency. You don't know exactly where it is that you're going, but you're taking the active steps to not be where you are now. And sometimes to get to where you need to be, or to get where you've never been, you need to do something you've never done before. And that's all it takes. To get somewhere that you've never been, you have to do something that you've never done before. That instruction and the promise that the Lord gave Abraham was conditional on Abraham's willingness to move without even knowing where it is that he was going. But it was based off of Abraham's willingness to move. It was based on Abraham's willingness to push forward and to do something that he's never done, to get out of the land of the familiar, to get out of where he is right now, because where he is right now is holding him back from greater. And that's why it's just important to start where you are, to not despise the small beginning, because when you're starting, you don't know where you'll end up. But all you know is that you have a vision, and you know that where you're going will be greater than where you are now, regardless of where you're starting at. We can't allow what media portrays, we can't allow what other people's lives look like to keep us stuck, or to keep us in a place of wishing and hoping that things were different, because it's not going to get different by wishing and hoping. It's only going to get different and become different if you take the steps, the necessary steps and the necessary actions to be different, whether that's learning a new skill, whether that's cutting people off, whether that's reading and learning some new things, whether that's advancing your prayer life, whether that's cutting off certain things that you know are hindering you. All you need is to start where you are. And it only takes one day. All it takes is one day to make a decision to not be where you are now, and to do something that you've never done before in order to go somewhere you've never gone. But I'm excited for what life has in store. All I would just say is to, again, just do something you've never done before. Be courageous. Be bold about your truth. Be bold about where it is you know you're supposed to be going. Be bold and be courageous about your vision. Never let anybody try to take your vision from you. Never let anybody try to steal your vision, not even yourself. Like, put yourself under subjection to what is greater. Because at times we can tend to stay in situations that feel comfortable because we are scared of the unknown, or because we're just not ready to move yet. But don't allow yourself to be the exact reason why you're not advancing. We can no longer be the old monkey on our back. It's time for us to move. It's time for us to get up and to do something we've never done before, to obtain something we never have before. Like, we gotta push and pursue what is greater regardless, because once again, there are people attached to us. Like in that verse, like the Lord said he will make Abraham famous and he will make Abraham a blessing to others. That promise was not just about Abraham alone, but it was about other people that Abraham was called to bless. A lot of our visions that we have, a lot of the things that we're called to do in life are not just for ourselves. And I keep pushing that in every episode because that's how real it is. That's how true it is. This world is connected through people, and other people's lives will be changed based off of our willingness to move and to do something we've never done before. So I just say, push, do something you've never done. Like, it's time for us to move, and it's time for us to advance in every single way possible. Share this with a friend. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. I really hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I hope y'all enjoy my new space, and I can't wait to see you guys on the next episode and just continue to elevate in mindset, habit, and spirit. I love y'all. I'll talk to y'all soon. Peace out.